waves glittered under the Mediterranean sun as Jeff Bezos's $485 million yacht, the Koru, sliced through the calm waters near Capri on board. The scene was like something out of a James Bond film, sleek, powerful, and impossible to ignore. At the center of it all stood Lauren Sánchez, radiant in a fitted white dress, her laughter rising above the breeze as she leaned toward Leonardo DiCaprio. The world had barely recovered from the viral moment 2 years earlier when a clip of Lauren gazing dreamily at Leo set the internet ablaze. Yet here they were again, the trio back in the spotlight. But this time on Bezos' own turf. Was this just a glamorous yacht rendezvous or the quiet unfolding of Hollywood's most unexpected friendship? Triangle as the shutter clicks echoed from nearby paparazzi boats and drones buzzed above the Koru's polished decks. The spectacle wasn't just about wealth anymore, it was about power perception and perhaps something more deeply personal for Bezos, whose transformation from tech tycoon to sun-kissed style icon has captivated millions. This was another chapter in his public reinvention, and for Lauren, once a behind-the-scenes news anchor now dubbed the Space Queen, the yacht wasn't just a stage. It was a declaration. But the presence of DiCaprio, whose charisma has long unsettled even the most secure of celebrity couples, added a layer of tension. No luxury yacht could cushion. Was this a peace summit, a subtle power move, or a PR masterstroke? As the yacht glided past the Faralleone rocks, social media exploded with speculation. Was Lauren getting too close again? Was Bezos subtly flexing by inviting Leo aboard? Or had they all simply learned to live above the noise? One thing was clear. This wasn't just a summer cruise. It was a calculated image drop where every pose, smile, and outfit had meaning, and every wave carried whispers of the past. Back on the deck of the Koru, Lauren Sánchez adjusted her oversized sunglasses, the kind only the ultra-wealthy seemed to wear, and turned her gaze to Leonardo, who was now chatting animatedly with another guest. The two laughed easily, as if no scandal had ever followed them across headlines, as if millions hadn't dissected. That red carpet moment when Lauren's eyes lingered too long and Bezos' stiff smile went viral for Bezos. This was more than an afternoon at sea. It was optics, power, narrative. He wasn't just showing the world he had moved on from embarrassment. He was showing he could command the same space as Hollywood royalty and still come out on top. Observers noticed how the yacht's seating arrangements placed Bezos in the center. The master of ceremonies, Lauren floated between him and Leonardo, balancing the roles of partner, hostess, and woman of the hour, with almost choreographed ease. Cameras zoomed in on her hand, lightly resting on Bezos' arm. Then just hours later, on the same hand brushing Leo's jacket, a fleeting gesture that launched thousands of TikToks and Twitter threads, and yet beneath all the whispers, there was something more profound, playing out the yacht, the glamour, the celebrity synergy. It was all a mirror, reflecting the insecurities and aspirations of modern fame. Bezos, once the poster child for nerdy ambition, had become a symbol of curated cool, a man who not only built Amazon, but had learned to build an image. And Lauren, once viewed as the tabloid third party, had now positioned herself as a style icon and social force. Leonardo DiCaprio, the ever-elusive heartthrob, seemed to hover between past rumors and present grace, never fully confirming or denying his place in their story. This yacht wasn't just floating on water, it was floating on tension, strategy, and star power, as the golden hues of the Mediterranean sun dipped lower, casting a shimmering glow across the water. The Koru transformed from a simple superyacht into a floating stage of power, seduction, and symbolism, the kind of scene that didn't need paparazzi because every phone, every drone, every camera already knew this was history being made. Leonardo DiCaprio stood at the edge of the deck, his silhouette perfectly framed against the horizon, a man who had navigated the choppy waters of fame longer than most, and now found himself at the center of another headline storm. Not of his own making, some guests whispered that his presence was a coincidence. Others swore it was deliberate and orchestrated move by Lauren to reignite the public's curiosity and give the media what they craved, a second act to the viral triangle that once broke the internet. Bezos, meanwhile, had retreated to a quieter section of the yacht, flanked by business advisors and old friends, the type who wore linen suits and expensive silence. His smile was measured, his body language composed, but those who knew him best saw the familiar flickers of calculation behind the eyes. Every glance at Lauren, every interaction with Leonardo, was being filed away, categorized, analyzed, not with jealousy but with intent. This was no ordinary cruise. This was brand management in motion. And Lauren danced between both men with the ease of someone who had been underestimated for too long. She wore a sheer white cover-up over her designer swimwear, her laughter echoing across the deck as if mocking the headlines that once called her a homewrecker or a gold digger. Now she was something else entirely, a curator of attention, a woman who understood the economics of image and how to bend them in her favor. Even as the sun disappeared and the evening lights came on, casting everything in soft, cinematic glow, the drama only deepened. Waitstaff served champagne in crystal flutes each, toast punctuated by sideways glances and veiled conversations. Leonardo raised a glass to new chapters. Bezos countered with a toast to timeless ambition, and Lauren simply smiled, the kind of smile that promised more to come and left everyone guessing, whether this was a love story, a power play, or something much more dangerous. The sea shimmered like liquid gold under the setting sun, and as the breeze tangled Lauren Sanchez's hair, Jeff Bezos leaned closer, whispering something only she could hear. The crew moved silently, the music a soft hum in the background, and the guests on board all knew they were in the presence of something rare, the merging of power, fame, and ambition at sea. But deep beneath the curated glamour, there was a story the world hadn't fully seen yet, because this yacht wasn't just a floating palace. It was a fortress, it was a stage, and it was a battlefield. When Leonardo DiCaprio stepped aboard the $485 million mega yacht, known as Koru, named after the Maori word for new beginnings, it felt like something had shifted, a spark, or maybe a fault. Line 1 that hinted at the collision of three titanic forces, each iconic in their own way. Bezos, the tech tycoon who reinvented global commerce. Sánchez, the former news anchor turned aviation mogul, turned bride to one of the richest men on earth. And DiCaprio, Hollywood royalty activist and heartthrob, with a past that strangely intersected both their lives. What started as a casual sunset cruise turned into a high-stakes moment of perception, one where the cameras might not have caught everything, but body language told volumes. Lauren seemed more alive, more radiant next to Leo than even the moments prior with Jeff, and Jeff, for a flicker, just a flicker, looked uncomfortable. The same Jeff who challenged trillion-dollar markets suddenly looked human, vulnerable, maybe even threatened by something as simple as a smile exchanged across champagne flutes behind the scenes. Crew members later spoke under anonymity, not of conflict but of tension, of moments where the room got quiet just a little. Too suddenly when Lauren and Leo talked a bit too closely, the lighting perfect, the wind perfect, but something about it all was just too perfect, like it was made to be seen. And maybe that was the point, because every move on that yacht was documented. Every sip, every laugh, every glance, and the tabloids' pounced headlines blared. Did Leo outshine Bezos on Bezos' own yacht? Was this the start of Hollywood's next elite triangle? But Lauren Sánchez was no damsel, and certainly no pawn. She knew the optics, and she had always been masterful at bending media to her favor. She had reinvented herself over and over, from scandalous headlines in her early anchor days to becoming the woman beside the world's most scrutinized billionaire. Her moves were deliberate, graceful, and calculated, and this yacht moment with Leo, whether intentional or not, only added to her allure. She wasn't just with Jeff Bezos. She was on equal footing, sailing beside him and flirting with the kind of danger that made her story tabloid gold. Still, the stakes were higher now, because this wasn't just a vacation. It was a public declaration of power. Wealth, and perhaps most dangerously status jealousy among the elite, isn't always loud. It's quiet. It's controlled. It's the way someone steps between two people talking, or how one glances at a photographer with a warning in their eyes. It's also the way secrets surface slowly, like waves lapping against the side of a yacht, until finally, they crash. And while many dismissed the yacht date as another billionaire, Flex, those inside the Hollywood loop, knew this wasn't just about money. It was about positioning and about shifting alliances. Because DiCaprio had long been a guest of billionaires, but rarely in the position to rival them. Not in wealth, perhaps, but in relevance, in charisma, in influence. Lauren's laugh ringing across the yacht deck as Leo spoke was all the proof some needed that she knew exactly the effect she was having. Tabloids soon resurrected old connections. Rumors of Leo and Lauren's early days, when both moved in overlapping social circles. Whispers that perhaps they'd crossed paths before in more private settings. Parties, award shows, and even private jets were suddenly dissected and timelines rebuilt, every past photograph reanalyzed for hints of chemistry or scandal. Meanwhile, Jeff Bezos, the man who could summon entire fleets with a phone call, remained composed in public, but sources Close to the couple noted a shift in his demeanor. After the yacht date, he became more assertive, more visible with Lauren, as if to reassert his claim not out of possessiveness, but pride, or maybe even protection. Because in their world, image wasn't just currency, it was armor behind the scenes. Lauren's team managed the headlines. Carefully, interviews were vetted, social media moments curated, and yet the firestorm only grew because fans and critics alike couldn't resist the narrative. The richest man in the world potentially being upstaged by an actor, even if that actor was Leonardo DiCaprio. It was delicious drama. It was a Netflix series waiting to happen. It was modern mythology in motion. And yet through it all, Lauren remained. Radiant, unbothered, untouchable, walking the yacht deck like it was her runway. Like she wasn't just part of the story, but the author of it, Jeff. Beside her, sometimes behind her, never overshadowing, always orbiting as she commanded the moment, like a queen in her domain. But the yacht wasn't just their stage. It became a symbol. The $485 million floating spectacle reminded everyone not just of the wealth they had, but of what they represented: a changing power dynamic in Hollywood and tech. A merger of industries where fame met fortune and where whispers could shake markets and spark feuds. And so as the sun set behind the horizon and the yacht lights flickered on, glowing against the twilight, the world kept watching not just for the next move, but for what it meant. Because in a world of curated lives and controlled images, the moments that feel most real, the glances, the tension, the laughter, those are the ones that tell the truth. And sometimes that truth is more powerful than any fortune. The modern world relies heavily on the invisible legal frameworks that guide global peace trade and access to natural resources. And among these, the law of the sea stands out as one of the most powerful and essential branches of international law. It defines who controls the oceans, how coastal states protect their waters, how far a nation can go to exploit undersea oil and minerals, and how ships, aircraft, and submarines from other countries can legally pass through waters that may be strategic, sensitive, or even contested. Without this framework, chaos would reign in the oceans, which cover over 70% of our planet and form the lifeline of the global economy. The United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, also known as UNCLOS, is the central legal authority in this domain. It is often referred to as the Constitution of the Oceans because of its comprehensive nature and global acceptance. More than 160 states have signed and ratified it since its adoption in 1982 and its enforcement in 1994. This treaty outlines maritime zones like the territorial sea, which stretches up to 12 nautical miles from a country's coastline, giving it sovereign control over that space, including the sea air above it and seabed below it. But within this space, UNCLOS still grants the right of innocent passage to foreign ships, allowing non-threatening movement through territorial waters for the sake of maintaining global connectivity. This delicate balance between sovereignty and shared access is what makes the law of the sea a masterpiece of modern legal diplomacy. Moving further, we find the contiguous zone between 12 and 24 nautical miles, which allows coastal states to enforce laws related to customs, immigration, and pollution. This zone is not about full control, but about securing borders against threats that may originate from or extend into the sea. Then comes the exclusive economic zone, or EEZ, which extends up to 200 nautical miles from the coast. And here the coastal state enjoys special rights to explore, exploit, conserve, and manage marine natural resources, whether living like fish or non-living like oil and gas. Foreign states, however, retain the right of navigation overflight and the laying of submarine cables provided they do not exploit the resources of the zone. Beyond the EEZ lies the continental shelf, which allows states to claim rights over the seabed and subsoil even beyond the 200 nautical mile limit. If they can provide scientific proof of geological extension through the Commission on the Limits of the Continental Shelf, this enables countries to access critical resources lying deep under the ocean floor beyond national jurisdictions. We enter the high seas, which are governed by the principle of freedom, open to all states for navigation, overflight, fishing research, and laying cables and pipelines. This principle ensures that the vast oceans remain a shared global space and not the exclusive property of any single nation. But the real test of UNCLOS comes when nations clash over maritime claims. A clear example was the Ghana versus Côte d'Ivoire case, where both countries disputed their offshore oil boundary, and instead of escalating into military conflict, the matter was resolved peacefully in 2023 through the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, which applied the rules of UNCLOS and protected the rights of both parties. A similarly intense case occurred between the Philippines and China over the South China Sea, where China tried to enforce historical claims using its 9-dash line asserting rights over 90% of the sea, including areas within the Philippines. Easy under UNCLOS. The Philippines successfully challenged this claim, and in 2024, the United Nations reaffirmed that China's position lacked legal basis, proving how the law of the sea empowers smaller nations to stand up to powerful ones through legal means and maintain maritime sovereignty. Another key component of UNCLOS lies in its handling of international straits. These narrow but vital passages like the Strait of Hormuz, the Strait of Malacca, and the Strait of Gibraltar connect major seas and oceans and form the arteries of global oil transport, shipping lanes, and naval strategy. Under Part 3 of UNCLOS, ships and aircraft from all nations enjoy the right of transit passage through these straits, even if they fall within the territorial sea of coastal states. This means that nations cannot block or interfere with the flow of peaceful navigation, though they can set rules on environmental safety or prevent dangerous activities. In 2023 and 2024, tensions rose in the Strait of Hormuz when Iran threatened to close it in response to the Israel-Hamas war, with 20% of global oil shipments passing through this route. The risk to global trade was immense. The United States and its allies invoked UNCLOS principles to assert transit passage and sent naval patrols to guarantee freedom of navigation, showcasing how the law of the sea stabilizes regions even during armed conflict. Environmental protection is another pillar of this law. UNCLOS requires states to preserve the marine environment, prevent pollution, and regulate activities like overfishing and toxic dumping, and it provides clear obligations in Articles 192 to 237 that force nations to take responsibility for damage caused to the ocean. This includes cooperation on research, pollution, monitoring, and enforcement of international standards in the Black Sea. During the Russia-Ukraine conflict, shipping routes were disrupted, and grain exports from Ukraine halted, threatening global food security. Turkey, playing a key role under the Montreux Convention, regulated the entry of warships, while UNCLOS guided the formation of humanitarian sea corridors to allow grain exports to resume, proving again that these laws are not symbolic but functional in the real world. The beauty of UNCLOS is in its peaceful dispute resolution mechanisms, whether through the International Court of Justice, the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, or specialized arbitration panel. States can take disagreements to legal forums rather than escalating into military conflict. This reinforces the rule of law at sea and builds trust in international cooperation for law students and future diplomats. Understanding this system is essential. It teaches us that even in the vast, ungoverned ocean, legal boundaries and cooperative frameworks can foster stability, fairness, and sustainability. The law of the sea and international straits is a living, breathing legal structure, one that affects every container ship, every fishing boat, every naval submarine, and every offshore oil rig, from securing economic interests to preventing war, from safeguarding the environment to enabling global trade. UNCLOS continues to serve as the foundation of ocean governance, and its importance will only grow in the decades to come. And now, as the golden sun slipped beneath the horizon, painting the sky in hues of fire and lavender, the world watched as one of the most private yet powerful unions in modern celebrity history continued to unfold aboard a vessel that cost more than most will see in 10 lifetimes. This was not just a yacht, it was a symbol, a floating fortress of wealth, romance, secrecy, and influence, where billionaires whispered over wine and the waves carried the echoes of carefully guarded conversations. Jeff Bezos and Sánchez had invited the one man who perhaps represented Hollywood's most elusive brand of charisma, Leonardo DiCaprio. And yet this wasn't just about friendship or a sunset sail. It was the collision of empires, tech, aerospace, entertainment, and media converging in the middle of the sea. No red carpets, no press conferences, no visible handlers. And still, every image, every glimpse told a story, deeper than the glossy headlines could catch. Lauren in a white silken cover, up her diamond earrings catching the light. Bezos shirtless, but smiling freely, more like a man who owned time than one who built empires. And Leo aloof, amused, maybe analyzing, maybe scheming, all three bodies on deck, but minds far below the surface, while the rest of the world tried to decode their poses and glances. The true power was pulsing just beneath their feet in the sealed rooms of the yacht, where contracts could be born, alliances could shift, and futures could be designed with a simple nod or knowing look. These were no longer just celebrities. They were strategists and power brokers, turning the ocean into a private negotiation room, and Lauren at the center of it all. Not as a passive observer, but the catalyst, a woman who had learned to move in rooms filled with noise. Without ever raising her voice, whether in the cockpit of a helicopter or the back of a limousine, she had mastered the art of balancing presence and privacy. And now, on this yacht with eyes across the world watching, she reminded everyone why she remains one of the most fascinating women in billionaire circles. The yacht may return to port. The tabloids may cool the buzz. But the impact of that day, its visuals, its whispers, its unspoken energy will ripple long after. And whether this was a simple gathering of friends or the prelude to something far more strategic, only time will tell. What we do know is this. Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez are not just writing headlines. They are curating mythologies in a world where attention is currency. Their every move becomes a transaction of power, seduction, and control, and aboard a $585 million vessel under the eyes of the stars, they sealed another chapter of their story in the ink of global fascination.
This video covers legal allegations in a news context. All claims are from official filings and no guilt is implied until proven in court. Please keep all discussions respectful. Allegations are not facts until proven in court.